Today, I want to take you back to when I was about 10 or 11. I had a small group of friends and I was invited to a sleepover. I forget the occasion, it may have been a birthday party or maybe just a spontaneous weekend, but that night changed my life forever. That night, for the first time, I played Phantasy Star Online. Me and my 3 friends rolled up new characters, and all night long, we explored the world of Ragall. I don't think we actually even made much progress, but there was something about the game that really resonated with me. I remember picking a magic user at the warning of the friend who knew the game really well. They're really hard to play, he said, having to manage your magic as well as being very frail in combat. Everybody else picked the badass characters with the beam sabers and laser guns, but me, I chose the cute girl with the cane and the silly hat. We were a good group. Our 2 frontliners dealt with much of the threat, while our ranged expert dealt with things from afar. And of course, me, launching off powerful fireball attacks when the melee combatants were in trouble or on cooldown from their combos. About an hour into the night or so, our fearless leader said something that, for some unknown reason, stuck with me. "You're a really good force, man." That small compliment awakened something in me that, apparently, I'm still proud of to this day. Maybe it was knowing that I was playing a challenging character well. Or maybe it was just like I felt like I actually fit in with a group of people. Maybe for the first time in my life. At any rate, when I got home from that sleepover, which admittedly had very little sleeping, I gathered up some of the games I didn't play much of anymore, and headed to Game Crazy to scrounge up enough store credit for my own copy of Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star Online was the first ever console MMORPG, released originally in 2000 for the Sega Dreamcast. Unfortunately, I never owned a Sega Dreamcast back then, and the version I played at that fateful sleepover was actually the enhanced GameCube port. PSO was actually a first-party Sega title made by none other than Sonic Team. That's right, Yuji Naka himself. And there were a lot of fun little Sonic and Sega tie-ins in the GameCube version, like the hidden tiny Chow Garden you could download onto your GBA, then transfer over to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, or how the characters in the screenshots on the back of the case are of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. That wouldn't be the last PSO sleepover, but before long, I was playing Phantasy Star Online alone. I never got a chance to play it online back then. Living in a lower middle-class family, there was no way my parent and step-parent would shell out the extra for the online peripheral and service. Though Sega has long since shut down official servers, there are a fair number of fan servers out there for every flavor of the game. Regardless, the solo adventure became like a way of life to me. Any spare moment was spent scouring the somewhat randomly generated maps for new loot, listening to the ambient trippy music, making progress on each character, little by little. Summer nights were spent staying up late delving into dangerous dungeons, fighting strange and interesting creatures for just one more loot run before resigning to bed. Phantasy Star Online is a lot of things to a lot of people, but this is what Phantasy Star Online means to me. Something so simple, so basic, perhaps the very first thing you do before you start playing is create your character. This was a new concept for me, really. Many of the games I had played prior had the characters already established in their world. Sonic the Hedgehog can't be anybody but Sonic the Hedgehog. Even though the Pokemon games were designed for the player to reflect themselves upon the in-game avatar, this was the first time I could actually make the character as I wanted. I could freely determine their height, weight, and, to a slightly lesser extent, how they looked. I could make the character in any image I desired, and although this is now a common practice in video games, this was the first time I really felt like I could project my ideal self upon this eventually badass character. This was an intense connection for me, especially as I would play this through my formative years. I truly believe that the media you consume in your formative years has a huge effect on the person you eventually turn out to be, but perhaps that's a topic for another video. At any rate, my character was not me, but how I wished I could be. Strong, intelligent, courageous, handsome, desired. Not me, but as I wished to be. Spawning into the actual game on Pioneer 2 and being able to walk around this spaceship, humanity's last hope, I've spent many hours not even playing the game, just walking around the small hub area and looking out as far as the eye could see, wondering what was out there, thinking about how this trapped, doomed world mirrored my own. In Phantasy Star Online, the character's planet is dying, and so the government sends out a probe seeking a planet suitable for sustaining life. Once that planet is found, a small first wave of refugees is sent to build a new civilization. Once the first wave of refugees sends the all clear, the main wave of refugees are sent. When the long voyage is finally at its end and the communication link is established between the initial settlers on the planet and the new main wave of refugees, an explosion occurs on the planet and all of the initial refugees are wiped out. Now, the second wave aboard Pioneer 2 are trapped. They can't return to their dying world, and the new planet is now deemed unsafe. They are trapped by circumstance. All of Pioneer 2's loved ones who may have gone on the initial transport are now dead, missing, or worse. I was rapidly heading into my teenage years, and I too felt trapped by circumstances. As I was getting older, that group of friends that introduced me to PSO started to go their own way. One moved away, never to be seen again. Another took different classes and made different friends, slowly falling out of one friend group for another. My stepmother suddenly divorced my dad, and I spent much of my days alone. My father worked second shift, so I was home from school just after he left for work, and in bed before he came home. Though I like to think I have a better handle on my life and circumstances, I do often still feel trapped by them. I'm sure many of us do. We have to force ourselves to go to work or school, we're forced to live in places that don't want or need us, an uncaring world where one's life is ultimately insignificant. These underlying themes of PSO resonate with me, and always have. In PSO, you play as a hunter, a sort of mercenary sent out on various missions, but ultimately the overarching goal is to find out what happened to the first wave of refugees. What happened to Pioneer 1? And what happened to the famous Red Ring Rico, your boss's daughter and prominent hunter? She leaves you a breadcrumb trail that you follow all the way up to the end of the game as you piece together what really happened to Pioneer 1. And those last moments when things really start to come together as you fight your way through the monster-infested ruins towards the final boss are truly moments I'll never forget. The way that the story is built into the exploration and the player's own curiosity really draws you into the world. Though I primarily talk about Episode 1 in this video, Episode 2's climax is also quite something to behold. It's just so easy to melt into this world, and the story alone isn't the only thing that immerses you in this science fiction fantasy world. As you fight through the 4 major dungeons, at least in Episode 1, the one I've far and away played the most, you'll be hyper-focused by the combat mechanics. PSO is technically an ARPG, so you'll be fighting monsters in real time. What's really addicting, however, is how combos work. Each weapon type has a unique 3-hit combo, and these combos must be executed with specific timing, so button mashing won't really get you anywhere. Instead, you have to focus on the timing of your attacks, and then weave in and out of enemy attacks. This creates such a sense of focus that's really easy to lose yourself in. Additionally, weapon swings have this really satisfying sound effect that just draws you in with a slight variation when you land that final hit in a 3-hit combo. It just releases something in your brain that feels so satisfying to execute. Combine this with unique monster cry and death sounds, and you have a really immersive soundscape that just stimulates your senses. All the while in the background, you're just vibing to these ambient synth tracks. Maybe this is just nostalgia speaking, but each track just evokes something in me that takes me straight to Ragall, that really makes me feel that loneliness and sadness embedded in each lost soul from Pioneer 1. The desperate struggle, the hopefulness and hopelessness. So soothingly somber. Listen to the background track from the mine and tell me, what does this track make you feel? Then there's the grind, for better and rarer loot, for higher levels and stats. It draws you in. This weapon could be slightly stronger than my current weapon. Does this strategy and weapon loadout work for this location and these monsters? If I level up just one more time, I could finally equip this rare drop I've been hanging on to. Harder difficulty means stronger monsters, yes, but also better loot. And don't even get me started on the mag system. Mags are little robot creatures that function as equipment. However, they also double as a sort of virtual pet. Keep them happy and they'll take care of you as well. Mags can be fed your consumables, which will raise their stats, which will in turn raise your character's stats when equipped. Eventually, they'll evolve based on the stats you've given them, enabling you to use powerful limit break-like moves called photon blasts. Different mags will award different photon blasts, and as they evolve into new interesting shapes, their tastes may change as well. An item that used to boost attack power significantly might not do much at all or even lower a certain stat. If you manage to feed your mag just right, you may even evolve them into a legendary mag. The system is very simple to understand, yet incredibly deep and satisfying to experiment with. All of these features make PSO rather addicting, but not in an underhanded way. You know exactly what you're getting into with Phantasy Star Online, and I love every minute of it. Immersion is the name of the game here, and the music, the gameplay, the story, all of it just combines to create this really amazing world for you to truly immerse yourself in and forget about all your outside troubles. Now, I'm not going to sweep all of the flaws under the rug. Yes, the combat and camera feel a bit archaic, and yes, it's better with friends, and yes, it's a big time commitment, but I love it. I'll play it by myself probably for the rest of my life, even if the fan servers do eventually go down. I love this game, and I love what it does to me every time I return to it. It's my ultimate comfort game. Phantasy Star Online is my old friend that is always waiting for me to come back.
One of the great things about friends is that we deposit the best of ourselves within each other. Then hold it all up to each other like a mirror when we need it the most. When you forget who you want to be, what you really love, where you're meant to be headed, visiting an old friend is just like this beautiful rush of clarity. Just like that, everything makes sense again.
Huge shout out to Harvest Time and all my patrons. You guys are the best. With your support, I'm motivated to keep on making the best quality videos I can. If you want to see yourself here, help support the channel, and maybe even score some exclusive Cyberphile merch, my Patreon is in the description. Thanks again, everyone. You really are the best. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more Cyberphile content. And if you liked this video, show me with that little thumbs up button. If you liked this video, you might like one of my other videos. You can click right on the boxes to jump to them. Cyberphile, offline.